There are days when even getting out of bed feels like a negotiation with your own worth. You wake up and the first thought isn't peace. It's pressure. The checklist starts writing itself in your mind before you've had a sip of water. And under every item there's an invisible question. Have I done enough to deserve rest today? Have I earned the right to feel good about myself? We live in a world that taught us to treat worth like a wage. Something to be worked for, tracked and approved. But feeling enough isn't the prize at the end of exhaustion. It's the ground beneath your feet, waiting for you to stand still long enough to notice it. Today, we begin the practice of coming home, not to a new version of you, but to the one that's always been here. Why it's so hard to feel enough. From childhood, most of us were rewarded for performance. Good grades, good manners, good behavior. Approval became oxygen. When people said, "I'm proud of you," what we heard was, "You're safe now." So we built safety around success, and fear around stillness. That's why it's hard to rest. Your nervous system has learned that slowing down equals danger. Disconnection, disapproval, maybe even loss. You're not broken for feeling restless in quiet moments. You're conditioned. The first practice of enoughness isn't about doing anything differently. It's about noticing the moment you start proving again. Practice 1. Pause before proving. The next time you catch yourself rushing to answer an email, fix someone's problem, or say yes when you want to say no, pause. Just one breath. Inhale through your nose. Exhale through your mouth. Ask quietly, am I doing this to connect or to prove? If the answer is proving, put a hand on your chest and remind yourself, I'm still enough, even if I rest for a moment. That single breath interrupts years of conditioning. It tells your body that safety doesn't only exist in motion. You can still send the email. You can still help the person. But now you're doing it from choice, not fear. From wholeness, not hunger. Each pause is a small act of reclamation. A way of saying, I belong to myself before I belong to my tasks. The voice that never stops. Listen closely, and you'll notice there's a running commentary inside you. The voice that says, you could have done more. Everyone else is ahead. You should be grateful, not tired. That voice isn't truth. It's an echo, the internalized sound of every environment that made love conditional. You can't silence it by force, but you can start talking back. That brings us to the second practice. Speaking gently to yourself. Practice 2. Speak gently to yourself. Imagine talking to a small child who's scared or exhausted. Would you say, get it together, you're fine? Or would you kneel down and whisper, I know you're trying. You can rest now. Every harsh thought is a chance to choose the second voice. When your mind says, you're falling behind, answer, I'm exactly where I'm learning. When it says, you're not doing enough, answer, enough for what? Enough for who? I'm doing my best and that's sacred. Gentle self-talk isn't indulgence. It's reparenting, the slow repair of a nervous system that never learned how to feel safe in its own presence. The body remembers. You can't think your way into enoughness. You have to feel it. Because worth is stored not in your thoughts, but in your body. When you live in constant proving mode, your muscles stay tight, your breath shallow. Even when you finish everything, your body doesn't get the memo. It's still braced for judgment. So when you pause, breathe or speak kindly to yourself, you're not just changing mindset, you're changing chemistry. You're teaching your body that rest isn't abandonment. That stillness can be safe. That you can be gentle and still belong. A short guided practice. Coming home. Close your eyes if you can. Let your spine soften. Inhale slowly through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Feel the weight of your body. Gravity holding you up without effort. Now, whisper inwardly. I am here. I am safe. I am enough even now. Notice the space between breaths. That quiet gap where nothing needs to be done. That's home. That's you. Stay for 3 breaths. No proving. No perfecting. Just presence. Why gentleness feels unnatural. Gentleness can feel fake at first. Because the nervous system doesn't trust softness. It expects criticism. But healing always feels unfamiliar before it feels true. Think of it like learning a new language. One word at a time. The more you practice gentleness, the more fluent you become in peace. Soon, your inner dialogue shifts from punishment to partnership. You start meeting yourself with curiosity instead of control. That's what coming home feels like. Not comfort all the time, but honesty without cruelty. A day in enoughness. Picture tomorrow morning. Before reaching for your phone, you place a hand over your heart. You whisper, "Good morning. I'm already enough." You make your coffee a little slower. You catch yourself about to rush, and pause. You breathe before proving. Later, when you forget and fall back into old patterns, you notice. You forgive yourself. You begin again. That's it, that's practice. Enoughness isn't a switch you flip. It's a rhythm you return to. Every pause, every gentle word, every breath of awareness adds up to a different way of living. The gift of small moments. You might think you need huge breakthroughs to feel whole. But the body learns safety in small moments. The moment you stop mid-sentence and breathe. The moment you look at yourself in the mirror and soften. The moment you decide rest counts too. These micro moments of presence rebuild trust with yourself. They whisper, "I won't abandon you again." And that whisper becomes the foundation of self-worth. You don't have to fix your life to feel enough. You just have to come home to the life that's already here. The pause before proving. The kindness in your own voice. The breath that says, "I belong to this moment." That's where worth lives. Not in what you finish, but in how you exist while doing it. So tonight, as you close your eyes, let yourself rest without earning it. Let your body unclench from the day. And if a thought says, "You could have done more," answer softly, "I did enough to be human. And that's all I needed." You don't need to chase worth anymore. You just need to remember where you left it. Right here in your own presence. There's a quiet kind of loneliness that comes from living out of sync with yourself. You can be surrounded by people, ticking off achievements, and still feel unseen, even inside your own life. It's the loneliness that whispers, "I'm here but I'm not home." Feeling enough isn't just about self-acceptance. It's about self-belonging. The practice of standing by yourself when the world makes you question your place. Today, we'll explore 2 more practices to help you belong to yourself. Honor your pace. Let yourself receive. Because when you stop abandoning your needs to meet everyone else's expectations, you begin to build a relationship with yourself that feels like safety. The myth of constant progress. We live in a culture obsessed with momentum. If you're not growing, you're failing. If you're not busy, you're behind. We glorify exhaustion and call it ambition. We confuse burnout with purpose. But there's another rhythm, quieter, wiser, slower, that we've forgotten how to follow. It's the rhythm of life itself. The inhale and exhale. The bloom and the fall. The action and the rest. You were never meant to live in endless summer. You were meant to honor your seasons. That's where our third practice begins. Practice 3. Honor your pace. When you rush through life trying to keep up, you lose the ability to listen. Listening to your body. Listening to your intuition. Listening to the quiet signals that tell you what's truly right for you. To honor your pace means to trust your timing. To believe that what's meant for you won't need to be forced, chased, or hurried. The next time you feel pressure to move faster, to hit a milestone, to catch up, to be further ahead, pause. Ask yourself gently, whose timeline am I following? If the answer isn't mine, slow down. Because nothing real will pass you by when you move at the speed of your truth. Lena was a high achiever. Always first in, last out. Her mantra was, "If I just work harder, I'll finally feel calm." But the calm never came. When burnout hit, she didn't know who she was without constant motion. Stillness felt like failure. In therapy, she learned something simple but life-changing. You can't heal in the same pace that hurt you. She began to schedule slow hours, time with no productivity allowed. At first she felt guilty. Then she felt grief. And slowly, she began to feel herself. She said, "For the first time, I'm not chasing peace. I'm moving at its speed. That's what it means to honor your pace, to stop racing life and start walking beside it. The fear of being lazy. You might hear a voice inside you say, if I slow down, everything will fall apart. If I rest, I'll lose my edge. That's not truth, that's fear talking. The fear of being lazy comes from a lifetime of associating worth with work. But rest isn't the opposite of progress. It's the root of it. When you honor your pace, you build from sustainability, not scarcity. You start doing things that last because they come from balance, not burnout. The plants in your home don't grow faster because you yell at them to hurry. They grow when you give them what they need. So do you. Guided reflection. Honoring your own timing. Take a deep breath. Inhale. Feel your chest rise. Exhale. Feel your body soften. Now think about one area of your life where you feel behind. Maybe it's career. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's healing. Imagine time as a current. Gentle, steady, flowing at its own pace. Now picture yourself stepping into that current, not to swim ahead, but to float. You are being carried. You are not late. You are right on time. Let that truth land. I am not behind. I'm unfolding. Practice 4. Let yourself receive. The next practice might be the hardest one of all. Because when you've lived your life proving your value, receiving can feel almost impossible. Compliments? You deflect them. Help? You insist you're fine. Love? You question if you've earned it. But here's the truth. You can't feel enough while rejecting everything that reminds you you are. Letting yourself receive isn't selfish. It's sacred. Why we block love? We block love because we're afraid of what it might reveal. That we're worthy after all. That maybe all the striving was never necessary. Receiving love without earning it feels uncomfortable at first. It goes against the rules we were taught. Be useful. Be good. Be needed. But worthiness isn't transactional. You don't have to do something impressive to deserve care. You just have to allow it. The next time someone says something kind, resist the urge to brush it off. Take a breath instead. Let the words land. That's what belonging feels like, letting goodness in. Arjun was the helper in every room, the friend who fixed things, the colleague who stayed late, the one who never asked for anything back. But secretly, he was exhausted. When someone offered to return the favor, he'd laugh it off. I don't want to be a burden. One day, a mentor said something that stopped him. You don't burden people by needing them. You bless them by trusting them. That night, Arjun cried. Because for the first time, he realized how lonely it was to never receive. He started small, asking for advice, letting people pay for coffee, saying thank you without apology. And slowly, he began to feel what he'd been chasing all along: connection without performance. That's the quiet gift of receiving. It reminds you that you're already enough to be loved. A simple practice. The 10-second pause. Here's a practice you can start today. Every time someone offers kindness, a compliment, a smile, a favor, pause for 10 seconds before responding. Breathe it in. Let your body feel the warmth of being seen. Then say, thank you. That's it. That's the whole practice. Each 10-second pause retrains your nervous system to believe, I can exist without earning the belonging you've been searching for. Self-belonging isn't a destination. It's a daily act of remembering. You remember by moving slower. You remember by letting love in. You remember by standing by yourself, even when old voices tell you not to. It's not about isolation, it's about integration. You stop abandoning yourself for acceptance. You stop editing your truth to keep the peace. You stop waiting for others to validate what you already know inside. That's what belonging feels like: quiet, grounded, safe. Guided moment: choosing yourself. Close your eyes. Take one full breath in and out. Picture yourself standing at a crossroads. One path is the old way: rushing, pleasing, overgiving. The other is the path of belonging: slower, softer, more honest. Now imagine placing your hand over your heart and saying, I choose myself this time. You might still help others. You might still strive, still care, still dream. But now you do it from fullness, not from fear. That's what happens when you belong to yourself. You stop performing for connection and start creating it. You don't need to earn your place in this world. You already belong. Not because of what you do, but because you are. When you honor your pace, life softens. When you let yourself receive, love deepens. And when you choose yourself, everything else begins to find its rightful place. Belonging isn't about being chosen by others. It's about no longer abandoning the person you've always been. So tonight, before you fall asleep, whisper this simple truth. I'm not behind. I'm not too much. I'm not hard to love. I belong to myself. By now, you've begun to see that feeling enough isn't about doing more, achieving more, or becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to prove it. You've learned to pause before proving. You've practiced speaking gently to yourself. You've started honoring your pace and letting love in. Now it's time for the fifth practice, the one that brings it all together. Create from wholeness. This is about how you live, work, and love from enoughness, not toward it. It's about shifting from self-improvement to self-expression. From fixing yourself to finally being yourself. The endless chase for better. We live in a world addicted to upgrading. Better habits. Better routines. Better versions of ourselves. And while growth is beautiful, the chase can become exhausting. Because it implies that who you are right now isn't enough. The truth is, you can grow without rejecting yourself. You can evolve without shame. You can want more without believing you're less. Living as if you're already enough doesn't mean you stop growing. It means you stop growing from fear. Practice 5. Create from wholeness. When you create, act, or speak from wholeness, you're no longer trying to fill a void. You're expressing fullness. You work, not to prove your value, but to share your truth. You rest, not because you've earned it, but because you're human. You love, not to be chosen but to connect. Every action becomes a reflection of who you are, not a plea for who you hope to be. This is the essence of creating from wholeness. What wholeness feels like. Wholeness doesn't feel like perfection. It feels like quiet alignment. It feels like not needing to hustle for belonging. It's the sigh of relief that comes when you realize you don't have to keep editing yourself to be worthy of peace. Wholeness is what happens when your heart, mind, and body finally stop fighting each other and start listening. It's not a destination. It's a way of being. You touch it every time you pause, every time you choose softness over speed. Ava used to chase achievement like oxygen. She loved the thrill of success, the validation, the rush. But the moment she reached one goal, she was already chasing the next. No celebration. No stillness. Just motion. One day she told me, I realized I wasn't chasing success. I was running from emptiness. So she stopped. Not forever, just for a while. She took long walks without her phone, spent days painting badly, and allowed herself to enjoy the mess. At first it felt wrong. But then something shifted. She said, for the first time, I created something not because it was good, but because it was true. That's the power of creating from wholeness. It's no longer about being impressive. It's about being alive. The freedom of enough. When you start living as if you're already enough, freedom sneaks back in. You stop needing everyone to like you. You stop measuring your days by productivity. You stop treating joy like a reward. Freedom doesn't mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes honest. You get to show up as you are, without constant negotiation. You learn that enoughness doesn't look like confidence all the time. It looks like truth. Even when you doubt yourself, even when you fall short, you can whisper, I'm still whole. That's not ego. That's reality. How to work from wholeness. Let's talk about the everyday part, the how. When you start a task or a project, check your intention. Ask yourself, am I doing this to prove something, or to express something? If it's proving, pause. Breathe. Reconnect. Let the work flow from your values, not your fear. Let it come from curiosity, not control. Let it feel like an offering, not an audition. That's how wholeness turns work into worship. When doubt returns. Even when you live from enoughness, doubt will visit. It's human. You'll still have days where you compare, rush, or forget. But now you have tools. Pauses, kind words, gentle rhythms. When the old voices return, the ones that say, "You're behind. You're not special. You're not enough." Don't argue with them. Just smile softly and say, "I've heard this story before, but it's not the only one I know." Then return to your body, to the breath, to the present, to the truth that's always been waiting underneath the noise. A guided practice. Acting from enoughness. Take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Let your shoulders drop. Think of one thing you want to do. Something you've been putting pressure on. It could be starting a project, sending a message, or simply taking a rest. Now, imagine doing it as if you already were enough. Not to prove anything. Not to fix anything. Just as an extension of who you are. How does that feel? Notice the shift, the ease, the warmth, the relief. That's what wholeness feels like in motion. That's you, living instead of performing. Remember this feeling. You can return to it anytime. The joy of ordinary moments. When you stop chasing extraordinary, you start noticing how sacred the ordinary really is. The way morning light hits the wall. The sound of rain on the window. The taste of your first sip of coffee. This is where enoughness hides. Not in achievements, but in awareness. The moment you start paying attention, you realize life was never waiting for you to earn it. It was always trying to meet you where you are. The ripple effect. When you live from enoughness, the people around you feel it. Your calm becomes permission. Your softness becomes safety. Your authenticity becomes invitation. You teach others, not by preaching, but by presence. Because every time you choose peace over performance, you quietly remind the world, there is another way. That's how healing ripples out. Not through force, but through example. The paradox of enoughness. Here's the paradox. The moment you stop trying to be enough, you already are. You can't perform your way into worthiness because worthiness was never outside you. It's what you're made of. It's not something you need to earn. It's something you need to remember. And every pause, every breath, every act of gentleness is a small way of remembering. A letter to the one who's still trying. To the one who still feels like they're not enough. Who measures themselves by unfinished tasks or unmet goals. I want you to know this. You were never meant to earn your rest. You were meant to return to it. You don't have to fix everything to be worthy of peace. You don't have to have it all together to be lovable. You just have to be here, breathing, learning, becoming. Let this be the day you stop auditioning for your own life. Let this be the day you decide that existing is enough reason to belong. Because you are not a project. You are a presence. And presence, your presence, is holy. Living as if you're enough doesn't mean you'll never forget again. It means you'll always know how to find your way back. Back to the breath. Back to the body. Back to the truth that says, I'm already whole. You will still grow, but gently. You will still work, but peacefully. You will still love, but without losing yourself. Because when you live as if you're already enough, every moment becomes an act of grace. Take one last deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let your heart unclench. And whisper this to yourself. I am enough. Not someday. Not if. Not when. Now. You've just finished How to Feel Enough. 5 practices to remember your worth. Take a moment to notice how you feel. Maybe softer, maybe quieter, maybe a little more like yourself. You don't have to do everything at once. Just one pause. One kind word. One breath at a time. That's how self-worth becomes a lived experience. Remember, you were never meant to earn your worth. You were meant to remember it. Carry these practices into your days like small rituals. Pause before proving. Speak gently to yourself. Honor your pace. Let love in. And create from wholeness. And when you forget, as we all do. Simply return to presence. That's where enoughness waits for you, every time. If this talk spoke to you, share it with someone who's tired of striving. Because when one person chooses to rest in their worth, it gives others permission to do the same. If this talk spoke to you, like, subscribe and share it with someone who's learning to slow down too. And remember, you don't have to do more to be more. You already are. Continue your journey in permission to be enough. The book that inspired this episode, and get free copy ebook, The Art of Feeling Enough, at the link in the description. Thank you for listening to Book with Joys. I'll see you in the next episode.